This beautiful love story has an element of heartache when Liz passed away during labor, but it was Matt's actions after she passed which were inspirational. Matt and Liz became inseparable until they started college, as they were enrolled in different regions of the country. Despite the distance, their relationship lasted. Once Matt finished his master's degree, he moved across the country to be with Liz in LA. They journeyed around the world, and when in Nepal, Matt proposed to Liz. On August 13, 2005, they got married, and years later they were excited to find out they were expecting their first child. However, they had no idea that their lives were going to be tested in ways they could never have imagined. Before we start, can we get this video to 1,000 likes? Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. The soon-to-be parents decided to start a blog to keep their family and friends updated on Liz's pregnancy progress. Liz had a difficult pregnancy as she suffered with morning sickness. Eventually, she was admitted to the hospital and placed on bed rest. Matt had no idea what he would be posting on the blog in the near future. 7 weeks prior to her due date, Liz was categorized as high risk due to false alarms. Some doctors monitored her closely. On 24 March 2008, Liz had an emergency C-section and everything went smoothly. Baby Madeline, Maddie Logelin, was only 3 pounds, 14 oz, when she was born. Since she was premature, the hospital staff rushed her to the neonatal intensive care unit, NICU. The proud parents will continue to update everyone on our beautiful baby. Matt updated on their pregnancy blog. I'm looking forward to hearing more positive news this evening. But no one was prepared for the bombshell that would come next. Liz didn't get to hold their daughter, but once ready was taken to the ward in a wheelchair. Matt helped his wife walk around the room before they went to the ward. It was the moment they had been waiting for until disaster struck. When she said, "I feel lightheaded," and slumped in his arms, Matt carefully and lovingly assisted his wife into the wheelchair. The nurses tried to reassure Matt by telling him that it was usual for women to swoon after giving delivery. However, Matt sensed something serious was wrong. Doctors and nurses raced around the room urgently. Matt was asked to leave the room, which made him feel helpless. All of a sudden, there's this code blue, and people are racing by me, Matt recounted painstakingly. In 2011, he explained, all of a sudden it hit me. She was going to die in this hospital today, and she'd never be able to hold her child. Doctors discovered that a clot had moved to Lizzie's lungs, which caused fatal pulmonary embolism within hours after delivering her daughter. Liz passed away due to a lethal embolism. Matt, who had just become a father, is now a widow. Matt was heartbroken. His next blog update was one of sadness. For the first few weeks, Matt couldn't take his wedding ring off as he wondered how he would cope without Liz at his side at times. He was constantly reminded of her even when visitors inquired about the baby's mother. Matt would reply, "She passed away the day after the kid was born." Despite his heartbreak, Matt was determined to do his best when it came to raising his daughter. The blog was also transformed into a parenting blog to help Matt prevent sadness and sought assistance from other parents. I have fond recollections of Liz, and I can tell her everything that has happened. But Maddie wasn't the only one who was subjected to these recollections. Sometimes I'm really joyful, and other times I'm so depressed that I don't know what to do. I attempt to convey that through the blog, he has stated. Soon after, the blog morphed into something larger, with long-term consequences for the little family. Matt wasn't sure what the blog would become, but he was considering turning it into a virtual scrapbook for Madeline as she grew up. Matt, Liz, and Madeline, Life and Death in a 27-Hour Period, he renamed the book. This form, however, would soon become more than just a personal record for him and Maddie. It would also become a popular online phenomenon. Matt was getting advice on anything Maddie related, from dealing with diaper rash to how to use nasal aspirators. He'd also established a forum for other parents in similar situations to connect. Furthermore, the forum was receiving tens of thousands of page views every day and 1 million to 1.5 million monthly visitors. The blog became a source of comfort for Matt, as it was therapeutic with information from other parents. Matt began to receive gifts from people who were moved by his story. "I never expected people caring as much about us as they do," he remarked. Liz was a ruler, so Matt decided to set up the Liz Logelin Foundation, which held fundraising activities in her honor, such as 5K walks and runs. Matt asked if it was okay if he handed away all the money that had been raised for him and Madeline to the widows and widowers he had met through his blog. Rachel and Jebretson, co-executive director of the charity, recounted. They didn't have the same support system, so he wanted to assist them. Matt wanted the blog to be a love letter to Madeline and Liz in many respects, he remarked. "Of course, Liz will never read it, but I want Madeline to know that her father didn't immediately curl up in a ball and begin binge drinking. I want her to know I was out there doing everything I could for her and trying to make her as happy as I could." One day Matt was driving when 4 digits suddenly flashed into his thoughts that were Liz's bank account PIN numbers. With everything that had happened, he forgot about the account. Matt arranged a huge birthday party for Madeline, which was also Liz's 1-year anniversary. In 2009, Matt visited India with Maddie for 2 months, where he wrote a memoir called 2 Kisses for Maddie, a memoir of loss and love. The book quickly became a New York Times bestseller. Matt was once interviewed about his life as a single father, but he doesn't think he's doing anything different than other parents. Love was on the cards for him again as he began dating Brooke Gullickson, one of the foundation's volunteers. While the pair had hoped to keep their connection under wraps at first, information quickly spread. "But even in my darkest periods, there has been happiness, and with Brooke now in our lives, there is even more happiness," he said, emphasizing that he hadn't replaced Liz. Not everyone, though, was as delighted. While the majority of Matt's blog readers were supportive, others were harsher, accusing him of sweeping Liz under the rug. Matt's relationship with Brooke didn't work out, so he spent some time alone and focused on Maddie and himself until speculation about him and Lizzie Molyneux, the writer for the animated series Bob's Burger, began to circulate. They wanted to remain anonymous in order to prevent rumors about their relationship from spreading. Inquisitive fans, on the other hand, did some digging and discovered something spectacular. Matt and Lizzie's wedding website was discovered by fans that they had wed discreetly in February 2018 in Palm Springs, California. On 24 March 2018, Maddie Logelin celebrated her 10th birthday, which also marks her mother's 10-year anniversary. Maddie's curiosity grew over time. "Daddy, did you hold my mommy's hand when she died?" she innocently asked one day. She constantly asks her father questions about what he and her late mother used to do together, but one question, in particular, choked Matt up. "What I said will never take away what happened that day," Matt said, despite his best efforts to be open and explain things to his young daughter. When Matt reflected on the conversation, he revealed that Maddie knew exactly what he needed to hear, and then said, "Daddy, I love you." "I love you as well, Maddie," he replied.